Hey guys, my name is Niclas Huschenbeth and I'm welcoming you to this new series of mine which is called The Greatest Games. And in this series I would like to take a look and analyze at what I consider to be the best and greatest games in chess history. So we'll start this series with my personal favorite, which is the game Kasparov against Topalov. And this game is often called Kasparov's Immortal, kind of referring to the Immortal game by Anderson in the 19th century. So Kasparov against Topalov, Wijk 1999, and we'll go right ahead and take a look. So Kasparov started with e4, d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3 here. Black has different options. He can play with e5, he can play with c6, or the third option is to play with g6, and we reach a typical perk. Bishop e3, bishop g7. Now queen d2 this. It's quite a popular setup to play queen d2 here to prepare bishop h6, to prepare queenside castle, and in the following, White likes to play with either f3 or h3 and continue with g4 and get some space on the king side and maybe have some attacking prospects. So c6, f3, also preventing knight g4, so quite a useful move. b5, knight g2. White has other options as well, but I don't want to spend too much time in the opening because the really interesting stuff is going to happen later in the game. Knight bd7 now. I already mentioned this idea to exchange this strong bishop on g7. And now you can already guess black is probably not going to castle kingside. Well, obviously white is not preventing him from doing so anyway, but even if the white queen wouldn't be on h6, white still wouldn't like to castle kingside without his bishop, which usually protects the black king very well. So bishop b7. And now, good prophylactic move by Kasparov a3. He could also castle here, but then queen a5 is quite unpleasant and black immediately threatens to play b4, and there's really no good way to meet this threat. So this is why Kasparov first played a3 here. Okay, now e5. But now he can castle, because now queen a5 is not really that much of a big deal anymore. White could simply play king b1, something along these lines. So queen e7. Black is also preparing queenside castle. King b1. Always a useful move to place the king on b1, and here in this concrete position white is opening up the square for the knight on c1 on e2, which really didn't have a way to go before. I mean, you can see a knight, he doesn't want to go on g3 because he doesn't really have any perspective there either. So knight c1 is coming here. a6, knight c1, and you can see the knight is now transferred to better squares. b3 is much better than e2. Now it's not standing in the way, and also there are ideas to bring the bishop to bring the knight even to a5. Now Topalov took on d4. If he plays in the center c5, white is just obtaining a nice space advantage here with d5, and he's slightly better, definitely. So e takes d4 is interesting. He gives up the center, so the tension, he loosens the tension in the center, but on the other hand he might obtain play in the center. Rook takes d4, and now c5, immediately attacking the rook, and the rook has to retreat. Now knight b6, and you can see that black is considering to play d5 in the future to also get rid of this weak pawn on d6. g3, a good move to open this diagonal up for a bishop. Now, if now d5, that's a possibility. Then bishop h3 check, king b8, and now e takes d5 would be possible. Knight b takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, and white is still having a slight edge here due to the weaker king of black, and also because he's having a very nice unpleasant knight on a5 here. So let's go back and take a look at what happened in the game. King b8. Now Kasparov played knight a5, but maybe not the best move. Maybe he should opt for something actually like g4, which looks strange. He first played g3 and now g4, but there are ideas to push the knight away on f6, and for example knight fd7, bishop e2, and the position is slightly better for white, but really not much exciting going on. Okay, so I think we can all be glad that Kasparov went for knight a5. Of course, black doesn't want to give up his bishop on b7, so he retreats the bishop to a8. Now bishop h3. But now I already mentioned it, black is playing d5. He's playing in the center now. Because his king isn't too weak at the moment, he's also having a lot of pieces around his king, so he's not too worried about his king's safety. Now queen f4 check. King a7. Rook he1. So white is obviously threatening now to take on d5, so black has to react and he has to play d4. If he takes on e4, obviously opening the position with his relatively open king on a7, he can't allow that. He can't do that. So this is just too much here. Knight takes e4. At first looks like it's working here for black, winning this pawn, but in the end here you can see their tactics, and it's all related to the weak king of black. Queen takes, queen c7, king a8, and knight c6, and there's nothing really black can do against this threat, queen a7 mate. So clearly d4 was forced, and now Kasparov played knight d5. Of course he was playing forward, and it's very interesting, an interesting attempt, but objectively speaking he should play the knight back to a2. Excuse me. And well, the position remains very complex, but black is not worse, definitely. Black is not worse. So in the game though, black could already achieve a better position, but he missed this opportunity. So the next moves are kind of forced. Knight takes d5, knight b takes d5. That's important because after knight f takes d5, this pawn on f7 would be hanging. So obviously black can't do that. So he has to take with the knight from b6 on d5. E takes d5, and now queen e6. And at first glance, it looks like black has everything under control. The queen is now on d6, and black is not worried about the endgame at all here. Rook takes d6, and now rook e7, simply king b6, attacking a knight on a5, and black is having a very nice center. And obviously, if white, for example, protects the knight, black can even take on d5, protect the pawn on f7. He's up a pawn and clearly better. So white can't go into the endgame. But Kasparov had already planned this position out, and he had seen a great, interesting combination here, which he played right now, which is rook takes d4. And it's an incredible combination, sacrificing two rooks, but black could have had an option here to not accept sacrifice and actually achieve a good position with the very nice move here, king b6. Very strong. Now the knight is also attacked, and black really is threatening to take this knight, so white should protect this pawn, protect this knight. And now queen takes f4, rook takes f4, and we reach this endgame, and here black is slightly better. Knight takes b4, knight b3 is forced, black is up a pawn, and white cannot create enough threats against the black king. but still, it's not that much for black, so white should maybe be able to hold it. But of course a completely different course than what we will see in the game, because after c takes d4, white is developing a crushing attack already. So after c takes d4, black is pretty much already lost. So here we see the idea of Kasparov. Now he didn't take on d4, but he played rook e7 first. If queen takes d4, then black could answer with queen b6, and after rook e7 now simply knight d7, and well, here after rook takes d7, white cannot take back on d7, and because the queen is hanging obviously, and if he takes on h8, he's still down in exchange. There are no immediate threats against the black king, and black is winning here. So but now rook e7, beautiful move, the second rook sacrifice in 2 moves. And we will do a quick break here, and we will be right back in the second part. See you then.